All right, thank you everybody for coming to our last session of the day. Unfortunately, Michael had to leave early, but how today is going to work is if you have questions, can everybody hear me okay? Okay, good. If you have questions for one of our lovely experts, please make a line at each of these microphones. Step right up and you can let us know if you have somebody specific you have a question for or if it's a general question. So feel free to step up to the microphone with your burning questions. And while we wait to see who's going to be the first brave person, I have a question for all of the panel. What is something that most people assume about your business that isn't true?
Often I think that people think we're designing for their personal taste. Or they want to just sort of see the intention or the furniture or what we're going to put in there beforehand. And I think it's really challenging to do that with the staging business model. It's something that's totally different. And so I think both agents and homeowners sort of don't understand the process in our business model enough to really get that.
Folks have sometimes unrealistic expectations when it comes to what staging is and what design is, and they're two completely different things, different workflows, different outcomes, different billing structure, different team structure, different everything. But what I would say that most people assume about staging is that it's fun all the time. Right? You tell somebody, I own a staging company, I'm a stager. Like, oh, that's so fun. You just go into houses and you decorate. And it's like, there is a lot of that. It is really fun, but the flip side of that, it's still running a business, and there's parts about it that are not easy, not fun. Mostly the good days help balance out the bad days, but yeah, that's what I would say.
Kishah, do you have anything to add to that?
They said enough.
All right. Does anybody have a question? Oh, it looks like we have a brave gentleman over here. What is your question?
Hello to everyone, and thank you for sharing all your experience and knowledge. My question is for Cheryl. Would you be please able to share with us what's your business marketing strategy at the moment, and how big is your marketing team? Thank you.
Thanks for the question. Our marketing is one of the foundations of my company. It's one of the first things we realized was going to get us out there and be a differentiator. We have a 5-person marketing team, a head of PR, graphic designer, social, and I forgot what the last person does. But they're there. It's super important, and it's something that we're very intentional with. It's something that we started really early on, especially in social, and created a big following. And obviously, social is where most people see your product. So, was that the question?
I actually have a follow-up to that. What was the most effective marketing move that you have ever made, and one that totally flopped?
The most effective was, like Jason was saying, I wrote some articles myself, sent it to wherever, and that really gets you picked up as an expert in the industry, especially 18 years ago when it wasn't a saturated industry. So I got tons of calls from reporters, one from the New York Times who put us on the cover of the real estate section, and it was called Ruthless Came the Stager, 2012. And it transformed the business overnight. Literally, we doubled every year after that. So that was a big hit, and I can't stress enough how important that is, the whole PR thing, like Jason was saying. A flop, I don't know, but go ahead, yeah.
One thing I want to add around how you all can figure out what is working or not working. So like if you're, in the Silicon Valley world, like you're taught how to grow a tech company, and they say everything's around experiments. You're always running experiments, and you need to track what you're doing, because what may not work for Cheryl may actually work for you, and it may work for you, may not work for me. And when we first bought DEKORA, we talked to the salesperson. We said, okay, so what are you doing to get more stages? She's like, okay, well, I look at MLS and I look at all the vacant homes and I reach out to all the agents, and this is one of my daily activities. Say, wonderful. How much business has it got? She's like, I'm like, anything? She's like, not yet. I'm like, how long have you been doing this for? She's like, last year. I'm like, the whole year? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, stop immediately. And so if you track your activities, then you'll figure out what to double down on and what is a dud and what is a stud.
For me, the most helpful is creating a marketing calendar. And the other part of that, like I was just talking about in the panel, is making things evergreen and finding a way to take what you're putting in an email blast into social and a blog. Don't continually try and reinvent the wheel. Think about, how do I take this one thing that I've done and put it into 4 or 5 different components. Again, you have to understand, like, not everyone is on Instagram, not everyone is on email, not everyone is at an open house, but if you cover each of those things, you will get to most everybody. So that's, again, the marketing calendar, and just plot out your content for almost a full year. It's really effective, evergreen, and then just like to saturate your market.
I have a question about that. How well are you sticking to your marketing campaign? Like, do you ever look at the campaign throughout the year and be like, okay, I'm gonna scrap this isn't working, let's readjust, or are you actually sticking to everything that you plan at the beginning of the year?
We're often adding things in or reprioritizing. For example, a project that was really close to me went into contract immediately. It fell out of contract. The buyer couldn't get financing, and so the agent had reached out, and so we shifted things within the calendar to just get that back out there to try and help get people through the door to the project. But we don't really try and scrap anything. But what we do try and think about and focus on is, there are certain times of year that are much busier than others, and there are certain activities that we do in off-season that we don't do on-season, and so you have to think about, like, is this a good use of my time? Is this effective? Is this something that we should focus on, when we're in a seasonal lull versus a high?
To piggyback on what Jason said, I think that having the content pillars is really important. I know for me, a challenge was trying to decide what kind of content to put out there, and, like, being who we are and what we do, I like to tweak things a little bit and iterate different times. And so that's been something where I've needed to just take myself out of the equation and say, what are the content pillars? What types of content do we want to put out there? Again, excellent point in making sure that you're harmonizing all of those things across different channels to make sure that you've got some broad coverage. But, don't reinvent the wheel every single time. And, done is better than perfect. So just stick with it.
All right, it looks like Bobby had a question.
I'm really shy and nervous, so take it easy on me. Okay, so this is what I love, is everybody up there, you're representing the luxury stager. So what I'm wondering is this, because we come from all over the place, and luxury means different things to different markets. And so what I'm wondering is, as I learn more and more about you, is did you enter staging focused on luxury? Did you start kind of doing whoever would call you back? And then how did it develop into luxury? And because you are luxury, what if somebody calls you and they have an $800,000 home to be staged? Do you look for other stagers whose niche is the non-luxury? Does that make sense?
Great question,
Yeah,
Bobby. Who
good
wants
question.
to take a shot at it first?
All right, well, I'm not totally luxury. I don't discriminate. I stage any house that is able to be staged, that needs to be staged. I just recently got into luxury, and how that happened was I did consultations. I have 2 clients that's all I did for them for a whole year, and then it turned in, I got a phone call for a $2 million listing, then I got a $4 million listing from the same agent, and it's been upward from there. But I don't discriminate. I will never just say I'm luxury. I think a lot of people get into this industry because it is glamorized, and they think, oh, I'm gonna be a luxury stager. Just like some agents say, I only want to sell luxury. I think you're doing yourself a service if you go into this industry thinking that way. That's just my opinion.
I think that's an amazing question. And, my journey to it was I did start at, the bottom, at the $100,000 flip, which, in our market in South Florida doesn't even exist anymore. And then I worked my way up. The price points eventually got higher and higher and higher for the properties that I was staging. And that came as my skill developed as a provider as well. That is to say, it's good, I think, to have some kind of sense of where your value is, of where your value proposition truly is. And for us, being in the South Florida market, it wound up being in the luxury market. Right now, we're staging homes, our average is $3 million and up. That's where we can bring our value. But that's not to say that, we turn our nose up at anything that's below that threshold. It's just what the market dictates. So I would say don't, think of yourself as better if you're a luxury stager, worse if you're not. It's really what market you're in and where you can bring that most value.
I think anyone who can afford to pay another person to come into their home to cosmetically update it in any capacity, if it's just cleaning up a kitchen and a living room, is a luxury, right? Like that's the reality of it. I'm very transparent about my early days up until 2018. I took anything, and I mean any single thing where someone would pay me something. My early work, I was using my own stuff, not charging, losing money, and eventually making it in a commission. I wanted to fix up these places, and so I did whatever I could. In the question of if someone calls you, here's the thing, you do get to a point where you grow your business to a certain level, and you realize I cannot take on a job below this number because it doesn't make economic sense. So our opening price point is $22,000, which I know a lot of people in the room will say, oh my God. And then some other people in the room might say, that's so small, right? So it's all relative, but February and June are typically somewhat quiet for us. And so those are months where if we get a phone call from a 5-star client who says, hey, can you do this? And I tell them our opening price point is 22. However, it's February. I'm happy to do this for you. We'll do it at 17. I would rather have some cash flow coming in than be sitting on my inventory and have it not doing anything, and my team, walking around the warehouse like refolding a pillowcase for the 7th time. Homes are very expensive. So if a client can meet our minimum price, I'm happy to do a job. We do focus on bigger projects in peak season. Like right now, my directive to my team when I left on Thursday was you're gonna finish the follow-up on those 22 proposals, but the 8 that you prioritize are the 5-star clients where the prices are over $50,000. We want to bring in those larger projects. Like I said earlier, it is much easier to send the team and myself for a day to work on a huge project versus doing the logistics of 3 projects. And so that sort of becomes the luxury for the business owner, is the time to come to understand your own numbers and everything else. I think is that everything?
What I'm looking at, especially smaller stagers, we have only so much inventory. We don't want to build up. So what I'm looking at is if we have a luxury, price point stager who specifically that's their jam, right? Would it behoove us to build our inventory in such a way that when during your peak season, and if somebody were to say, I know you started at 22,000, but we've got this 800, what do we do? Are you looking to find other stagers in the area to send that to?
I absolutely. I have a whole list of clients, and actually I said to Cheryl earlier, there's a project that I think is too big for me, and I said to the agent on the phone, you need to talk with Cheryl for this. So it goes all different ways, and sometimes I'm not the right person. There have been times where I've had a conversation with the owner or the agent, and I'm like, oh, this is not gonna go well. And here are 3 people that I think would be you guys will work better together. And so that's, again, I was saying earlier, you want to form these relationships and work with each other. It's a very small community. Again, I came from real estate brokerage where every broker in the office was competing against each other in some capacity, but we all worked together, we all hung out together, we all got to know each other's families. And so I think on all sort of aspects of that, yes, like if you can't do a great job, refer it to someone who can, and whether it's luxury or below, what you do, I think you want to have.
I call it real life home staging.
Yeah. You want to have those relationships because again, they're going to refer you business at some point. It's much better to work that way.
Okay, thank you for that, because I know we were talking about it earlier, so thank you.
I just want to add one more thing to that. One more thing just to add to that, because my team and I have been talking about this like most of the trip. It's sort of like, we've got sort of an eclectic range of inventory at this point, and sometimes we're like, oh, let's hang on to this table. It's our nice table for when we get like the nice listing. But the reality is sometimes it's like we have like one fleet of things, and so we're thinking about like what luxury sort of is, and sometimes like it's a little bit more of a feeling, and in the service itself, I think is sort of a luxury too. And I think there's some staging companies out there that are sort of defining like there's almost sort of like two different fleets of inventory that they own, and so it's sort of like this inventory services this price range and this services this price range. I know my clients in Boston would just want like sometimes the lower tier but the nicest stuff anyway, and so I think it's a little bit tricky to sort of figure it out.
Okay, looks like we've got a question over here. Come on up to the microphone.
Thank you. My question is around working with creative teams, and I'm interested to hear from you guys and how you might work with other creatives that are within your team. How do you go with ensuring that your creative vision is upheld, that your brand standards and what they're delivering is in line with your own expectations as the creative directors or heads of your companies? And how do you find the best approach in giving them also the creativity to complete their roles as best that they can as well?
You want to go first?
Sure. So when we first bought the company, we met with all the people, and we asked the stylists, so like, what's it like working with Michaela, our GM? And they were like, well, sometimes we want to like do the design our own way, and then Michaela says, no, it has to be done this way. And then we're like, okay. And we'd already talked to Michaela, and she said that this might happen. And we're like, okay, so like, give me an example. And they were like, well, we wanted to just like do some more color and like do some more like just interesting, fun things. And then I was like, okay. And you're doing that because you want to grow as a designer. Like, yeah. And the goal of a designer is to stage a home so that it sells, right? Like, yeah. Like, well, did you ever think that thing that you want to do actually might not work? And then if you did it, that would make you look like a bad designer. And they're like, oh. And so I was like, the rules and the boundaries and the way that DEKORA wants you to stage a home is not to confine you. It is to make you a great stager. It's to make you style a home so it sells really well. Now, I also think that we need to get clear on our principles and our boundaries so that it feels like you have autonomy. That as long as you're checking these boxes, do whatever you want. And so I think it's up to management and leadership to create those principles and those boundaries and those rules that make your team great at staging and designing. But then when they go and do it, you're like, go do it. Just follow the rules and just go do it, because that's the feeling of, I have creative freedom. And so we just put that in place, and everyone stopped talking about the fact that they felt caged and uncreative at the company.
Yeah, I want to say that too, but then I'm curious Jason's answer, actually. But we experience the same thing, I'm sure everyone here does, that people come into staging thinking it's an interior design thing, which it is not. It's almost the opposite, right? That is so taste specific for a seller or an owner of a home versus a broad appeal in a way. Not bland, but that is something that most people will like. And so our designers do sort of feel, is stagnating, and we try to encourage them to be creative. But there are certain boundaries that you have to keep. And I also have my eye on almost every project somehow, even though it's a lot, and you do too. That's very interesting. But I think the more they stage, we've had people for 8 years, they sort of understand the aesthetic, and because we have so much competition, they know they have to keep evolving it, as do we all, and that's a very rapid thing that you have to keep doing. So the more creativity and diversity in creatives that you can get, the better, as long as they stay within that, that boundary.
I'm like, go to the bathroom now, and we're going to be here for a while. All right, this is, I'm like, please don't put this on Instagram. I really try and train my team. Every single item in our warehouse I have sourced, so I control what can go in and what goes out. I have also, over the last 2 years, we have digitized and cataloged every single piece of inventory, and certain things are classified in certain capacities so they can't get used in a different level of project. I oversee every single thing, and I try not to micromanage. There are, I only have 3 people really helping me on design. Some of them are better than others. The truth is some of them don't understand the nuances of these properties, and part of this is like, look, I'm maniacal with this. Like, I have told some people, like, as I'm interviewing them, if you want to work here, like, you need to watch The Devil Wears Prada twice. Like, just take notes. Because that's sort of what some of this is like. And so I do look at everything and every detail, and when something doesn't work, I explain why. And so in a very specific example, there's a building in New York, the Superior Inc., very high-end condo building, but like kind of bland. And we did 2 very successful projects there, and a third one went out the other day, and the third one is the one that I didn't design. I assigned it out and oversaw it, and the designer picked a few things that, like, they don't work in this building. And I had talked about the narrative of who owns this building, what is the price point per square foot in this building. And so I said, I actually know someone that owns a 3-bedroom apartment that is like $8.5 million, and they use it as a closet to get ready. That is the type of people who live in this building. And I said, so this here, and this here, like they don't work. If we were doing this great funky house in Brooklyn, in like not brownstone Brooklyn, in industrial Brooklyn, in edgy Brooklyn, are great. And so at this point, for the most part, my team understands the most of like these things, and I really try and explain it. I don't just say no. I don't just like tell them like you didn't do a good job. I really go into the detail and the story of why a piece like this just does not work, or there's a piece of art that I have 7 or 8 of them, and it's called Derby Spectator, and it's this older gentleman at the Kentucky Derby. It's in black and white. He's wearing a little hat, and it's a fascinating piece. I love it. I've bought 7 of them. I use it quite a bit. It's also the kind of piece where like he could look like a villain in a Batman movie, right? And so one of the designers once, they mocked it up and they put it over like a primary bed and I was like, it's odd. It's like this old creepy man is like watching over you. And so I had to sort of create a policy, like, and I have a lot of old oil paintings, right? And I was like moving forward, and it's like documented, like no like old stuffy white men over beds. Like, it's just that they're awkward. It's like, who is this guy like leering at me? And so like, those are the types of things I really try and control and teach and think about, and it's challenging when you're trying to do these like hyper-specific designs. And I understand sometimes why people are not so specific and try and keep things a little bit more general, because it is easier to train people, it is easier to staff, it is easier to move quickly. There's less friction and less confrontation, but that for me is not what I want. So in terms of, I hope I answered that question, and maybe I'm rambling at this point, but I very much control every single little detail without trying to micromanage my team to empower them, to teach them. But yeah, sometimes there's 3 or 4 things that may seem small, but I won't let them go out. Like, I know that they're problems. And you again, this is all based off of just years of feedback of hearing, like, oh my God, this muddy brown picture. Like, there's a piece of art we have that, tell them, like, enough with the mud. Like, I love it, but this is not, and it's so funny every once in a while. Someone writes back, like, what is this piece of mud above the, and I'm like, I told you so. And so sometimes you do need to let them understand that and see that information from the source so that they realize, why you're trying to teach them that. So.
Yeah, excellent answer. And to Jason and Cheryl's point, the design is always evolving, and you as a leader are always evolving. And that first step in going from owner-operator to owner is getting those systems in place, what we've alluded to here of actually setting those brand guidelines. And when you're out on stagings all day and wearing all of the hats, that can be a really challenging thing to do. I have found tremendous help using AI tools. I mean, doing voice recorders, even I had members of my team film me doing a walkthrough, literally stream of consciousness of everything that I was seeing, everything that I was pointing out, how I was viewing the space, the things that I was noticing, and we used AI to put that into an SOP. And then the video exists also so that people understand the whys, and then also all of the nuances that come along with this. And then the more that you coach and you train your team, they're going to understand your eye and your modality so that they'll be able to pick up on that. And to Jason's point as well, you do have to have control over everything that goes out. Doesn't mean that you're there pushing everybody out of the way if things are going a little bit off kilter, but your role is to guide and to train and to ultimately make sure that that quality is executed to the best of everyone's ability, because it's your brand, it's your name. That finished piece is a calling card of your work, and you're not going to be there to defend it. So you got to make sure that it speaks volumes for you.
So my business is still pretty young. I've been in business just over 5 years, and we have a lot of areas of refinement, and I'm still wearing a ton of hats, and so it's really, really hard when you're like the COO and the CFO, and I don't have an email list. I have a long list of notes of things I need to work on. And so to do all of that and feel the enormous amount of pressure to maintain the quality and just keep the pulse on what your brand is, what you want the creative output to look like. It's a lot. It's a lot if you're still in, sort of like a younger business phase. I brought someone on, Meredith. She's with my team, but she joined as our creative director. And so I'm actually running the business, but felt like bringing someone on that has a ton of experience in visuals was a great asset for me. And her work just blows me away. And I'm still sourcing a lot of the furniture, so I feel like I have my mark on it. But it's hard. It's hard to teach style. Sometimes it's you know it when you see it. But I have the same thing. I'm there's a piece of art. I'm oh, I hate that. I don't want to see that on stage. Well, why don't we get rid of it? Well, it's going to be perfect somewhere one day. Just not here or there or tomorrow. But yeah, I think there's just lots of ways to go about it, but it's nice sometimes to give your team some lateral.
All right, it looks like we have somebody over here with a question.
First thing, guys, these microphones should have lineups. This is the pinnacle of the pinnacle, and you pay to ask them any questions, so I invite you to be brave and get up and ask questions. My question is, I got asked this early today, and I think it's really important for everyone. So I want to share that question, and hopefully you guys can give us some feedback. What's your wages spend of revenue, and not necessarily how many thousands of dollars, but what percentage, and equally for your inventory spend on percentage, because obviously it will change for everyone. I'm happy to share ours, which we spend 32.5% on wages, which is all personal, and like our team, and 25% on inventory.
Oh gosh, it changes by year. I feel like the first 4 years, we were buying so much in inventory. It wasn't until last year that the percentages flipped. So for us, it's like 30% is in wages, payroll, and then we'll see aftermarket what the percentage looks like. So, yeah.
For me, everyone that works alongside me they're 1099s, but they have to be insured. But I invest 10% back into each one of my stages. Hopefully one day I can stop shopping. I think it's just a habit at this point. I'm kind of to the point where the thrill is gone, you know? So I would like to get it to the point where I can just keep reusing and reusing. I'm almost there. I just got a partner to come in, and she has gobs of inventory, so that's helping me get to that point where we can stop. So that's where I'm at with that.
I don't really look at, I mean, I do have that number tracked, like what percentage of my revenue is salaries and wages, and what percent of my profit or all my profit or how much money as a percentage of revenue went towards furniture. I just don't find that useful because, as you said, the business goes through phases and stages. And like for us, we're rebuilding, and so we're regrowing, went through a crazy growth spurt right away, and they were like, we need more furniture. And we're like, okay, how much is it gonna cost to do 5 more stages a month? And they were like, $20,000 a stage. And I was like, okay, so we're gonna spend $100,000, and we're gonna make $15,000 in rental fees on all those stages. So that means I'm gonna get paid back in 7 months. So like that, so I'm just like, okay, like sure, that seems fine. And then my wages and payroll are just a function of the sales, so it's variable. There's some fixed management fees, and that's why I need to make sure I meet a certain volume. But as many, and that was a big change, was we got rid of some full-time people, merged roles for full-times, made more people part-time, project-based, so that we could rise and fall with the business as it was being evolved again. And I just focused on gross profit. And I was like, hey, I just want to make sure that we're at 67% gross profit on staging. That if we're costing everything out correctly. And so I don't really look at those numbers. I don't find them useful when you're in transition. I think they're really useful when you're in steady state and you're trying to optimize for profit, potentially for a sale of your company or for a bank to raise money. But unless you're doing those two things, I don't find those useful.
Do we have any other questions? All right, there's one over there.
Okay, I'm a little nervous. But when you guys first started out, I am new to staging. I guess, what was your first investment in regards to building your team? Did you guys start off with a marketing person or maybe like an assistant? And then also like what, I guess, revenue or profit did you have to make before considering adding someone to your team?
Our last business, we made the mistake of the first hires were sales and marketing, because we're like, we just need more sales and marketing, so let's just hire more sales and marketing. The best people to do sales and marketing, especially early on, are the owner. And you probably like it. You like meeting the client. You like selling your value and your service. And the best person who's going to get the highest price is going to be the founder and the owner pushing their conviction. And so that's why Buy Back Your Time is this great new book that just talks about the replacement ladder. And first is admin and payroll, and then fulfillment, so customer service and fulfillment, which here is also moving. And then you got your assistants who are now helping with the stages, and then you've got your lead stylist, and you're doing the overarching plan, and then you'll have sales and marketing and operations kind of at the top. That's like the general strategy. And so the first thing that we did when we are rebuilding the business is I'm pulling away all the admin work off my main people so that they can do more profit-producing activities and business-building activities, and I can get that admin stuff because that's the first ladder that I want someone from some part of the world or AI to replace.
When I first started, I was all the things, and I was exhausted. My husband and my boys were my movers. I fired them, and I hired some movers. They were tearing my furniture up, and it was costing me because they didn't see the value in the product like I did. It was my baby. I wanted my hands in everything, and I still have my hands in everything, just in a different way, so that if someone doesn't show up, I can get it done, because it is my baby. So my first 4 stages, I didn't make a dime, and I was okay with that because it built my inventory. And the stages were high priced, so I was able to get some good quality furniture. I got a lot of it, and then after that, I started paying myself. And to this day, as soon as the money hits me, I don't care what nobody says. I pay myself first because I do not want to be one of those stagers that I'm burnt out, I'm irritated, and I don't feel like I'm getting anything out of it. So because I do pay myself first, I'm happy, everybody else is happy, and we're rolling.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually, pay yourself first. Towards that, I think a book is a fantastic way to, understand the structure of that, but it's also which came first, the chicken or the egg. It's you're the stager and the salesperson. I was for many years, as most of us probably were, before you can afford to, you're investing in the, in the company and the furniture so that you can build your business. What's the first thing that you need to hire? It's the stuff that you can't get to and that you're not good at. Finance. That's the first thing I did. Someone who can keep the books, because otherwise I would not be in business. So that was the first thing. And then when there were too many projects to take on to keep the company going, that's when you hire the next stager. That's what I did. You can outsource things to keep your nut low, like moving at some point. And that's how I grew the company. And for many years, I was broke. I was, working till 5 a.m, sweating, and it was probably 5 years of that. And then I started hiring people, and as you start to grow, in a perfect world, it starts to really snowball, and now we're a 90-person company. And that's fantastic. So yeah, you replace yourself in the things that you're not great at. Those are the things you sub out first.
So I would say for hiring, the first hire, the biggest mistake a lot of people do is you find someone, you're like, oh my God, they're just like me. This is going to be so great. And then the biggest lesson I learned is you want someone who's exactly not like you. And you want to, I would keep a running list of all the things that you never get to. I'm going to do that one day. Oh, I hate doing that. The thing that you keep looking at on a to-do list, that is you're hiring someone to come and do all the things that you cannot get done, that you do not want to get done, that you dread doing, and that you try and pass off. That should always be the first hire. I feel lucky because, again, I was doing this as a hobby as a real estate agent, and I had a decent enough volume that I had an administrative assistant, and so I had them doing all the admin stuff because I was terrible at it. But my first sort of hire was a 20-year-old kid who had just moved here, who was going to school for an interior design, and he helped me with my installs. And that was like the first real person, and then I started to go from there. But I think it's really important to have your first hire should be a person that can do the things that you are dreading doing that you need to get done in order to run your business.
It's all dollars and cents too, like you're hiring people, so they're taking your money. So you need to make sure the math works. and let's say you make $100,000 a year. You make $100,000 a year, and you work 40 hours a week. Obviously, you don't do that, but probably. But let's say you do that for easy math, because then I can say, okay, so you make like $50 an hour. Like at the end of the day, how much money you're making, owner comp and all the stuff you take from the business, it kind of equates to $1 per hour. And so if you can replace that activity that you're doing for 25% of your per hour, that's a good trade. So if you're making $200,000 a year, so at first, if you make $100,000 a year at $50 an hour, you can really afford people to do things for you at $15 an hour. So what can you get people to do for you for $15 an hour that's on your list? It will only be a small list, but it will free you up to make $150,000, $200,000 a year. Now your per hour is $100 an hour. And 25% of that is now $25 an hour. And the amount of tasks you can now get someone to do for $25 an hour is a lot bigger. And so that becomes the mathematical equation that allows you to keep siphoning off stuff you hate, stuff that drains you from energy, stuff that's not profit producing, stuff that's not revenue producing, and so that you can grow your business, enjoy your life, and enjoy your business more, and make the math work.
Christy, it looks like you've got a question.
Hi, I wanted to get insight from you all on how you convince a market that hasn't necessarily paid a lot of stagers a ton of money, that making that switch to investing double, triple, quadruple what the realtors are used to investing in staging is worth it. I'm in Tampa, and we have gotten a lot of like ultra luxury homes in the past few years, which for us I consider about like 13 million and above. And we work with the top realtors, but they cannot seem to be convinced that a $13 million or $20 million home takes a far higher level of inventory to get the job done right, and we're having a really hard time making that switch. So I didn't know if y'all had any insight onto that.
When I started 18 years ago, there weren't any other stagers, so I could price whatever I wanted. Of course, the first few were free, so proof of concept, right? And then as you start to, and then I charged $3,000, which for me was a lot. It was exciting. So I made up what the numbers were because I was the only one really doing it, and that was great. But now, as Jason said in his thing, the ROI is really your value. So if you can demonstrate, well, I can actually make you 70 times what the other, what the other stagers can, because I've got these numbers and these statistics. That's an ROI that people understand numbers, and sellers and brokers respond to numbers. The numbers don't lie. So if you go in with compelling things like that. Also, this I want to say again, everyone here, don't compete on price, because then we're all racing to the bottom. Keep your prices higher. Because otherwise, I see it in several markets, if you guys compete on price, you're just creating a commoditized thing, and we're nothing, and we're all going to have to start going lower and lower. Do the opposite. Start increasing your prices. Do it slowly if you have to. Do it quickly if you want to try, and really stay the course and say, I'm worth blah, blah, blah. We do less jobs for more money versus more jobs for less money. And that's something that we'll maybe do per stager one project a month, believe it or not. But these are very hands-on, very elite kind of things. But we stick to our pricing, and everyone else is less than we're always the top price. But people are paying for it, and there's a reason they are, and that's one of the compelling reasons people, understand the pricing for us.
Yeah, the young lady that just asked the question. Oh, okay. So I'm going to talk about the class, Staging to Sale, what every agent should know. Do you guys teach that course? Not yet. All right. Well, all y'all in the room that's been coming up to me and we've been talking about it, let's get real with it. That's it. That's the game changer. You have to educate. I think we focus on the money too much. You're going to get to the money. You got to have some confidence in yourself. Your stats matter. And RESA has stats.
Yep. And
Utilize what's available for you through RESA. We talked about that yesterday, going on that website. The numbers are there. You should be having your before and after. You need to have the stats, but you need to educate these agents because we can't keep making excuses that they're not paying us. They're not paying us enough. Why aren't they paying you? Because they don't know what the value of staging is. That's your responsibility to teach them that. If you haven't started looking into teaching this class, I know y'all gonna pay me for selling this class. I teach the class quite often. When I get back this week, I have 4 classes lined up. They seek me out. They wanna know because these homes are sitting on the market too freaking long. Who wants to be an agent and then have that fear that their contract is about to expire? Guess what they start doing? Calling. They're calling you, me, her, and then guess what we do? We play the number game. And you want to find out who did they talk to? What did she offer you? Stop doing that. Start educating, teaching this class. I get in front of these agents and I tell you, this is my marketing. I walk out of that class with people coming at me. They want a consultation. They want staging because you're the expert. You appear to be the expert. You're standing up there talking to them for 3 hours. They better got something out of it. And you should be walking away with something as well. A stage, a consultation. I don't even push the staging so much. I stick with the give me a consult. Come on, let's do the consultation. Because when you get in there and you do that consultation, $250, $300, whatever it is, I promise you it's gonna turn into a stage from somebody. They're gonna see that value because when you show up, you're gonna show up with knowledge, information that is going to make that sale for them. That's what we're always talking, more money, faster sale. And right now, some of these houses, like I said, they're sitting too long. They need to stage them.
Yeah, yes to all of that. And to piggyback on what Cheryl said, keep your prices high, stay the course. Because the reality is that the luxury, ultra luxury price points, they do require a different level of inventory, a different level of service, a different scale, different everything. And, you know, especially in Florida, you know, we're in South Florida, so I can speak on the market there, is it's only going up. It's a luxury destination market. And so, you know, people are coming in not only from all over the country, all over the world. You're competing on a global scale. And, you know, that education is so key. And so just keep hitting your points. And the luxury agents that have their antennas up and that are really going to be successful understand they know what LA is doing. They know what Miami is doing. They know what New York is doing. Just keep at it because that will pick up. Eventually, you will get 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and then that will become the new standard.
So can you come back to the microphone? Thank you. I'm also like, yeah, keep raising your prices. So I'm curious to understand, though, in your market, so the $13 million house that you're trying to elevate and grow your business, right?
Right.
So have you staged one of those in a way that is very compelling for a $13 million where you created the metric where maybe it was staged before, it didn't sell, you came in and you did it in this way, it made, you know, $500,000 more than the neighbor down the block that's been on, do you have that yet?
Yeah, we've staged quite a few of, I'd say, the ultra luxury homes. And I even, to be honest, to be frank, like ponder with the idea, maybe this is in my head that I have to go and, you know, to this next level. Maybe I don't because we have had success with, you know, a $20,000 stage and the homes have sold. So I don't know if, but to me as, you know, having some design knowledge or whatever, I'm like appalled. You know, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe we put this in there. But it's really, really hard to even get them to wrap their heads around $40,000 because they're just not used to seeing quotes like that. So anyway, that was a
So I
long
think-
answer to your
but,
question. But yes.
I would say if you have that metric, then it's your responsibility to start to really put that out there. And
Yeah.
maybe the agents that you're trying to convince, maybe that you work with, maybe they're not the right agents,
Yeah.
right? So then it becomes like, okay, I need to start to identify who are the agents that are transacting, who is the agent that drives a Ferrari, that picks
Yeah.
up a client in
Yeah.
a Ferrari. Like, are you reading the real deal and looking at who's
Yeah.
transacting and so I think if you start to look at it from that perspective, okay, like I have this case study, I have this metric, and we have 4 of them. I'm going to keep working this campaign and I'm going to get one person out of it. And then that becomes something else and something else. And I think that's a big part of it is the consistency to understand you're not going to be able to convince everyone, like not every agent you're supposed to work with. Not every property is going to require it, but I think if you can start to really put that message out there in a succinct way that people say, oh, wait, this person put in X and got back, quadruple X, 10X, whatever it is, then you're sort of saying, here's what this investment gets you. Like, you have this level of property, we have this success, this is what it costs. Hey, you can go with this other stager and this other thing, but we're finding, like, it's been 6 months more on market, it didn't transact at this. And I think, again, if you're spinning it that way solely based on metrics and data points that people can see, but then also identifying who are the right agents that may respond to it, I think you'll find that you'll be able to create that success. And then once you have one, you have the other. Again, I'm coming from a place where, look, 5 years ago I was doing like, 5th floor walk-up, 1-bedroom apartments for $10,000, where now we're not doing that. But it was just, I'm going to create the success, I'm going to put it out there, and I'm going to keep going with it, systems in place, inventories here. Again, like I've been building the inventory over the last several years to do the level of projects that we're doing now, but I didn't have this inventory.
Right.
It's just it's a growth and a trajectory, but it was something, I knew I wanted to do, but I know there's significantly larger, like the type of project Cheryl does, that like they don't interest me as much, right? Like getting to that next level is not necessarily something I'm looking for, that large scale, the multi-markets. Like I think if you say this is what I want and I'm going for it versus here's all these other things that I don't want, I think you'll get there. It's just going to take time and consistency.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I think sometimes too with agents specifically, when they're not, when they're looking at a couple different quotes and they're seeing a lot of different numbers, it's sort of, they feel like it's like the wild, wild west. Like I don't even understand like what the difference really is.
Right.
And so the case studies are really important. And I think in tracking metrics too, we also track everything, and it's helped us to really learn actually what we're not great at, like what style home we're not great at, we can refer out. But sometimes it's like, until you get to a place where you have a ton of case studies and where the numbers sort of speak for it, then it's really, really tricky. It's tricky. And so I think you have to get really comfortable selling not just the fact that like we're moving furniture in and we're furnishing the space and we're staging it, but it's the strategy too, and it's why it's this number and like why it's this number for your firm. I think too with the really luxury projects, I don't want to put my name on it if I'm not billing enough 100%. To do the type of work that I'm proud of also, or that we believe is commensurate with what the buyer would expect.
Yeah.
And so we talk about that a lot too. It's like, oh, I couldn't do it for this other quoted price and put furniture in this place or a style that's going to resonate. And so that just really doesn't do anyone justice.
Yeah, and the realtor shouldn't want that on their, part of their portfolio either,
Right.
I think, But that was really helpful. Thank you, guys.
And it looks like we've got a question over here.
Hi, guys. I'm Erica from Colorado. I know us stagers and business owners, we all have struggles that we go through in different phases of our businesses each year. What challenges do you guys still feel like you still face? Like it just won't go away? Just kind of like in business or with just in general. And then at what point where you're like, this is where I've made it, and have you gotten there? Like, I've made it when, and have you gotten there?
This is like to me, this is like a self, development kind of question, because I've exited a business and then was depressed because I didn't have a team, I didn't have an expense account, I didn't have anything to do. And then we remember having just endless money in our crazy success times, where you are excited for a moment because you're now able to do things with the money you're making that you've never been able to do before, personally, business-wise, life-wise. And then all of a sudden that gets desensitized because money is just digits, like in a bank account that you're not even really touching. Like there's some money you touch, and that's the lifestyle you want to have, and so you want to push up to get that lifestyle you want to have. And then the challenge is to get rid of the envy and jealousy of people who have some different lifestyle, because you like for a moment think you want that, but then deep down you're like, I really don't. And so I think self-awareness of like, what do you really need? What do you really want? What are you really going after? Like, what kind of business are you trying to build? What lifestyle are you trying to build? And when you get there, you can stop and just cruise and chill and optimize for time. Because there's that old story everyone knows, I'm sure people have heard the story of the fisherman who meets the American business guy, and he tells him he needs to grow this big fishing business, and he goes on this crazy long journey to build this crazy big fishing business, and then he sells it, and the guy's like, so what do you want to do with all this money? He's like, I just want to get back to fishing with my family. And what the hell was that whole 10 years for? That was stressful. And so I think there's like just these weird thoughts and feelings that come as a business owner because of things that you're seeing on social media, that is a constant challenge. Like I constantly fight with jealousy and envy, and I constantly fight with impatience. And I just need to be patient. I just need to just constantly remind myself, like, what am I trying to do? Because the reason why we have the business we have and why we're doing this is because we want to have fun. Like, Amanda wants to do a job she loves doing. I want to play more tennis and learn how to optimize a business without being in the city, so I can buy more businesses in cities I don't live in, because that's the thing I want to be able to do. And so these are just things I'm now learning and skills, and I keep getting lured into these potential ideas that sound great at first that really aren't for me. And just owning who I am, what am I trying to do, what am I trying to build. To me, that's the constant battle as a business owner, because we have so many options potentially of what we could do. Like, look at how many different ways you guys are doing business. Like, it's almost like I want to do all of them, but it's like, no. What's my sandbox? It's so cool that Cheryl, like, just does luxury. Like, it's so great to choose a sandbox and stay in it and let everyone else do all the other crap. You'll have a way better life because of it. And so that women in the red dress article, analogy, like distractions, impatience, and jealousy, and for me, jealousy and envy of other stuff going on that just seeps into my brain. That's stupid.
Thank you so much for being honest and transparent, because that's not easy to say.
Yeah.
So who wants to share next?
I definitely have a lot to say on this topic, but I think, this is our 11th year, and we've gone from, year one, it was me with a 9-to-5 job staging nights and weekends and on my lunch break with 2 toddlers at home, and the early years were a lot of hustle, a lot of grind. I don't remember a lot of it because I was just focused on that one thing. And then, once you've kind of built it up to where, okay, the proof of concept stage is over. This is a thing. This is a thing. Then you get to face yourself when you're out of that hustle and survival mode. And, to your point or your question about what challenges keep popping up, it's the ones that you haven't resolved for yourself yet. It's leadership challenges, it's people challenges, it's facing how you are with your finances, what money means to you, what success means to you. I mean, you're very much on point with all of those things. And so I found entrepreneurship to be first and foremost a personal development journey. And you know, wherever you go, there you are. So regardless of whether or not you're doing this, this work in a 9-to-5, or you have your own staging company, or you know, you're just starting out, whatever it is that you're doing professionally, you need to be authentic to yourself first and foremost. And you know, if you are doing this as a profession and you do have your own company, you're in charge of setting that culture, and whatever is in here is going to be amplified out there. If you're not good in here and you've got stuff going on that you need to work on and work through, if there's things not working in your business, you need to look in the mirror first and then work through those things.
I think for me, the struggle, and so I work with Luann as my coach, and we spend a lot of time on this. And the opening keynote, and I forgot his name, I'm sorry, Dr. Kent was just like, it shook me to my core. I really struggle with managing a team, and there's a very significant age gap between myself and most of my employees. I know I look young, and I'm not. And it's really, it is the one thing within my whole business that doesn't seem to be going as well as everything else. And so, you know, his sort of presentation was really like, look, there's this new way in this new generation, and like, either you're gonna start to get on board or you're screwed, right? Like that was sort of like you boil it all down. And so that is something I struggle with, and it was really helpful. And the other one was the, how do you know you've made it sort of thing? All right, so I have a story. This is really crazy, but there's a building in Greenwich Village that Nate Berkus designed all of the interiors for, and the entire building sold out in like a couple weeks, 9 units, and there's a penthouse that for whatever reason the developers did not really like sort of decide on a marketing strategy for. And so Nate designed the model apartment, and the person who bought that apartment bought every single thing in it. And so the developer went to Nate and was like, hey, we need to launch the penthouse, and we want you to design it. And so Nate apparently had just from his warehouse sent like 3 containers of furniture to a project he's working on in Portugal, and they were on a Zoom with the brokers, and he's like, and as he told his team about it, and the team said, if you say yes, we're all quitting, because there's no way we can do this in like a month. And so like Nate's on the call with the agents, he's like, I just wish there was someone out there who could like design like we do and understands like our narrative and has these layers and all this vintage furniture and has it ready to go and, you know, has staged and understands like the differences between, and the brokers were like, actually there is someone. And so like a week later, I'm on a Zoom with Nate Berkus, and I'm sitting like this because I'm dying, and Nate starts talking to me, and he's like, look, I went through your website and your entire Instagram, and he starts referencing stuff. And he's like, I love your work. It's so detailed. And he's like, you're going to do the penthouse, and we're going to work with you on it. And I'm like sitting there covering my mouth, nodding, and I'm screaming on the inside. Like I couldn't even believe that this was real. And so on like Tuesday, we'll start working on the paint prep and install for this project in Greenwich Village. And that was like, to be on a call with him and to have him like reference my work and talk about it in a way that was like very clear that he had actually done the research was just completely mind-blowing and surreal to me. So, yeah.
Really, that's amazing. Really quickly, the part about how do you know when you've made it, and everyone can speak on this, I never, I don't know if it's just me, but I never felt that. I always think like, what's the next thing? I'm looking ahead, and that's not for everyone. Like I made a choice in my life to like not get married, not have kids, not have a life. I just built a business, and that's all I did for years and years and years. And it's just my focus. It's my passion, my love. It is my family. This business I've built. So it's like really a personal decision, as I think we're all saying. But mine is always like, I'm here. Okay, great. Well, what's next? And so I'm constantly thinking the growth, the growth, the growth, and that requires enormous sacrifice. That I don't think anyone really understands. Well, maybe actually you do understand because you've all done this. But yeah, so I think it's a personal thing. Do you want to stay small and do you want to stay at a certain number, or do you want to not have a life and grow and grow and grow? Do you want to take investors? Do you want to have debt? Like these are the questions you have to ask yourself. Anyway, it's a personal thing.
Okay, most definitely for me, I would say I'm not
completely where I want to be. I mean, I don't know if I've ever get to that feeling of I feel complete in this business because I'm just a high achiever. So that's just how my brain is wired. But I'm working on that, just living in the moment, taking day by day, and appreciating, because I go back in my mind to when I first started this business. I owned a bed and breakfast for 15 years. So that was a different world, but it took me here because of all the designing I had to do. And I remember when I left Wisconsin, because I was in Wisconsin at the time, and I moved to Texas, and I remember driving in Houston and looking at those huge houses in River Oaks and Post Oak, and I remember telling my husband, I'm gonna be in those houses designing and staging. I'm a big manifester, so I have to be very careful what I speak out, good and bad, and I remember that, and I remember having vivid dreams, and sometimes I would be crying, like I want to get there, because I was doing those crappy houses, you know, 150, 200,000, but you got to take what you got to take so you can feed your family, pay the bills. And now, when I'm in those houses where 2 million, 4 million, I pause, and I am grateful, and I remember those moments when I didn't have a t-shirt that had my name on it, you know, or the hat, or the movers, or the truck, or any of that, and I pause. Take a moment and pause. And what I struggle with the most is trust. I've had so many people try to attach themselves to me in this business. As they watch me grow, try to ride my coattail. I kick their ass off now. I used to drag folks with me and try to help them, let you shadow me, and trust was a big issue. It is, I'm working on it. Because I used to have people that would shadow me. I'm the state president, right? You know, I gotta be open and let people in. Nah. And they started stealing from me, stealing my creative ideas, taking photos. You can't show up to my stage with your cameras, with your phones anymore. Leave them in the car. And they started using my images as their own, going behind my back, reaching out to my agents. Thank God I have some great agents that will come back, screenshot, and tell me. So I have a big issue with trust, and I had to look at myself. I had to go back to deep in my childhood, so I ended up getting a coach. Even though I'm a mentor, I have one myself, because it was personal stuff I had to go through. Because whatever the hell you're going through in your personal life is gonna bleed over into your business, and vice versa. Relationships are very important to me, and I value that. I'm just getting a partner, because I've been doing this for years on my own, because I don't trust. And I trust this woman so much to go into business with her, and it has been the best thing ever, because I can release. I can allow her to do what she does, and I trust her. So yeah, that's something I'm working on.
So our time is actually pretty much over. I know you've been standing for a really long time. So if you want to ask your question and then we could get a couple quick answers, I'd be happy to have you be the very last one.
Thank you. So thank you to everyone for all your feedback. It has been so helpful. This question is actually for Cheryl. You do some incredible work, and I'm always amazed with all your stages. It's a two-part question. So one, I'm curious if you could share some of the providers that you source from the most. And then two, I've read articles that you have worked with different buildings where you actually sell the homes completely furnished. How did you, that would be like a very long-term goal of mine. How did you start doing that and negotiating that, and like, how do you price that?
Thank you, by the way. I will say this, I want to tell everyone this again. Sell your furniture. It's just a cash cow. And you keep your inventory fresh. It should be the goal of your staging. Sell it furnished. And the easiest place to do that are in secondary home markets, vacation home markets, because everybody wants them furnished. So if you can focus on that, where they're most likely to sell furnished, you're going to make a lot of money. Just everyone, I'm shocked that people last year were saying they didn't want to sell their stuff because then they won't have stuff to stage with. Sell it, buy new stuff. So that's, and turnkey homes, which is a huge business, less competitive than staging, is a really cash cow type of business. So I would stage as if I'm going to sell it furnished. We're leaning into this is a turnkey home, not a staged home. You lean with, like, if you want to buy this, here's the price list. It should be everyone's goal to sell the place furnished. Not only have you made all the money already because you've rented your place, your furniture at another staging, blah, blah, blah. You've also been paid to stage. Then you mark up the money, you mark up the furniture because of the convenience of moving into a completely designed home. Mark it up. So anyway, huge cash cow, sell furnished. It should be your intention. The sourcing, we source from overseas now. But in a pinch, when we have to fill in, it's the same, and I'm going to market too. It's, Tove is great. These are like the lower prices. Tove, Four Hands, Meridian, and I see in the pictures from last night that we're all kind of using the same vendors, even in $100 million homes, and I'm using all the same vendors. Sometimes IKEA, I swear to God. Anyway, that's my answer.
I just want to thank everybody for coming to RESACON this year. We had a great experience. I want to shout out our sponsors one last time, those that are still left in the room. We honestly could not hold this conference without our sponsors. And I want to remind you, yeah, let's give it up for them. That if you are looking for resources, these sponsors not only sponsor RESACON, but they sponsor this industry all year round. So let's make an effort to support those that support you. And on that note, our board of directors are your #1 supporters here at RESA. So I want to thank all of you for everything that you do. And again, they volunteer. They were voted in by all of you in this room, and they're working really hard to move the industry forward. And I know Lou in the back, come on up, has something to share, a little inspirational message. And while he comes up, I want to see, with a show of hands, how many of you are planning on coming back next year? Great. I love to see that. So next year, we do already tentatively have some dates blocked in. We will be back at the M Resort, and we will be here the last week of July in alignment with the market. So keep an eye out when you see those tickets go on sale, because we would love to have you. And again, I know half of you, it's your first time here. So I want to express my gratitude for you, for investing in yourself and your business. I know that it wasn't easy to get here, and it means a lot to all of us at RESA HQ that you support us and this industry. We are a nonprofit. Shell doesn't own RESA. We are here to serve you. Literally, you are our only priority. And the more of you that are investing in this association, the larger we could grow, the more resources that we could have, and the bigger voice we have. So if you have any stagers at home who have not joined RESA yet, and they may be those low price leaders, invite them to learn, because that's how we grow as a community, and it all starts with you. So thank you so much, and I'm gonna hand the mic over to Lou so he could finish this off for us.
Good afternoon, everyone. Many moons ago, when dinosaurs roamed the earth and I started staging caves, everyone told me it'd be a great way to meet women. We'll see. Visionaries, creatives, masters of transformation. Today we stand at a crossroads. We have come through days of inspiration, days of learning, days of awakening our potential. And I ask you, what will you do with the knowledge you have gained? Will you leave here unchanged, or will you rise? Will you take the knowledge, the passion, the fire, and let it burn brighter than ever before? Because I tell you, the future belongs to those who dare to dream. and then dare to do. Now is the time, not tomorrow, not next week, but right now, to step forward with courage, with conviction, with purpose. You are the architects of change, the artists shaping a new landscape, the storytellers turning empty spaces into vibrant, living masterpieces. So I say to you, go forth, create, transform, inspire, because the world is waiting for your brilliance. The homes you stage are more than spaces. They are stories waiting to be told. And every story you craft and every transformation you ignite pushes the world to a brighter tomorrow. So I challenge you, do not hold back. Do not hesitate. Let your passion lead, and let your craft define your legacy. The last 2 days we have learned, we have connected, and we have been inspired. But tomorrow, it is your turn to act, to take what you have gained and turn it into greatness, to turn dreams into reality, to turn potential into achievement. I believe in each and every one of you. And I know without a doubt that together we can move mountains, that together we can touch the stars. The time is now. The moment is yours. Let's go out and make history. Let's stage excellence. Let's change lives. The stage is set. Your time to shine is now. Let's make it unforgettable, and let's make it legendary. Thank you.